Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and right now, by my count, it looks like we have a quorum. So what I would like to do is take attendance, read the script for the remotely conducted open meetings, and then get started. Get some business done tonight. Okay, I'm going to run down the list for attendance. Mary Miskovich is not attending this evening. Paul Guthrie.
Present.
Deb.
Yes, I'm here.
Jack.
Here.
Mary Ann.
Here?
You. Liz Drury, we'll discuss a little later. She is not in attendance. I am here. Josh Morse will not be attending this evening. He has a meeting conflict. Dan.
Yes, sir.
There. Amy. Well, I saw you. There you are.
Present. Yep, I'm here.
All right. Stephanie.
Present.
All right. Thank you. Linda Holt is a non-voting member. She is not attending this evening. Lindsay McConchie. Not here. And Krista Silva.
Here.
Okay, thanks, Chris. We have a quorum. So let me take a moment here and read the little script we've got. Hold on, get the right piece of paper. So this is an open meeting of the Senior Center Committee. It is being conducted in person and via Zoom. Speakers on the agenda may be participating remotely, and the chair may allow the public to provide comments after the agenda is completed. If a member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your hand in the meeting room or on your computer. And when called, please state your name for the meeting minutes. The Senior Center Committee would welcome public comments. And if there is further action that is required by the committee, the clerk will add the matter as appropriate to the forthcoming agenda. Depending upon the comment, the committee may, if they are able within the confines of the open meeting law, respond with information as opposed to needing to deliberate on the matter. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, this meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast to individual attendees unless otherwise required by law. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. So please take care to not screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured in the recording. The end. So I will kick this off. First item on the agenda, as usual, is acceptance of the meeting minutes. Our most recent meeting, which were the minutes from the April 4th, 2024 meeting. Everybody has seen them.
Yep.
I sent them out again they were sent out, I think, a couple of times, so everybody's had them. Are there any questions, edits that need
Nope.
to be made before we vote?
Nope.
Everybody thinks they look good. I'm in agreement.
Yes.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the April 4th, 2024 Senior Center Committee meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you, Paul. Via roll call, we will, vote in the minutes. Paul.
Yes.
Deb.
Yes.
Jack.
Yes.
Mary Ann.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Dan.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Minutes were approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is, and the agendas are going to look similar to this for most meetings, at least I believe they are. So I think the first thing we're going to hit is working group reports, and the first one on the agenda is the frequently asked questions page. I think Deb was going to give an update on that.
Yeah.
Yes. The
page, we've added 3 more items to it. So I think there's a total of 28 or 29 total questions and answers at this point.
Has everybody had time to look at the FAQ on the website? I hope.
Mhm.
Perfect, perfect. Has anybody heard any comments from the public about the FAQ? Any good, bad, indifferent, they like it, hate it, think it's useless? No? I've not heard anything. Just curious. Well, that didn't take long. Okay, next one. Finance, unless somebody has something on finance at this moment, tonight's meeting, I do not believe that we have a finance update. I don't think anything has happened on the finance side. I don't believe that anybody has gifted the town a few $1 million to cover a new senior center. If they have, I've not been notified. And I don't think that has happened. So I don't think there's anything in the finance area tonight. We'll talk around that subject as we move through the next couple of pieces here. Does anybody have any issues on the finance? Any comments that we should all be aware of? Okay, good. So we don't have a big pot of money sitting somewhere that we've not been told about. All right. Moving right along, senior center visits coordination. Mary Ann, if you've got the time and the ability to give a brief report on that, we've had a few visits.
Mhm.
I've attended 2. I thought they were both excellent. And now I'll be quiet. Go ahead, Mary Ann, please.
Okay, so far we've visited 3 local senior centers. We've gone to Acton, Lunenburg, and Millis. We have set up a drive folder. It's on my personal drive, so I have to share it with folks. It's been shared with everyone on the senior center visit committee, and I will send the read link to everybody on the committee so that you can go through the documents we have. We're filling out the same checklist with the same questions for each visit. And what I've done is compile the checklists I've received so that we just have one checklist listed, that we're not putting multiple checklists for each. There is a folder for each town we visited so far. We have an upcoming meeting, a visit to Stowe on May 7th. I have created a spreadsheet that will have the schedule of the past visits, who we've spoken to, who has attended those visits, and list the upcoming visits. That will be, all of you will be able to see. Let's see what else. We have photos from 2 of the visits. We have photos up on the site from Lunenburg and Millis. We've had a little bit of technical difficulty getting the ones from the Acton visit, but that should happen this week. And we wanted to open it up so that if there is anybody else on the committee who is interested in attending the visits, as they're coming up, I will email everybody on the committee. And if you're interested, you have to let me know ahead of time. We can't just have people showing up, because we do have to keep underneath the 5 voting members, so that we will not have a quorum at the visit. Like I said, Stowe is coming up, and we hope to possibly do Wayland that same afternoon. And we are still waiting to hear from Hudson. And we need to circle around and look at the list of local senior centers and the demographics on those, and see where else we would like to look. I know a couple of them that are more analogous to us are actually in construction right now, so there's really not much to see. Both Littleton and Air, I think, are in that situation.
Excellent. Great update, Mary Ann. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
One comment on your statement of making sure that we don't exceed having the 5 people attend any one of the meetings. So that is important only because, you know, in public meeting law, once you've got a quorum, it's now got to be a posted meeting 48 hours in advance. So not that we're trying to exclude anybody from going. If we need to make a second visit to a particular site, well, then, you know, so be it. We'll have a second, if we think it's important enough and enough people want to visit that particular town senior center, we'll add it to the schedule and do it again. And once Mary Ann sees the list, you know, I'm very happy at any given time. If I'm going, I'm very happy to drop off and allow somebody else in, you know, take my space and go visit. But I have to at least personally say, of the 2 I went to was Lunenburg and Millis, I was very impressed with the people, the activities. The 2 physical facilities were drastically different, but in many ways the same. You know, they had a lot of separation. They had different rooms for different things. You know, they had pluses and minuses, as every town will have. I don't think we're going to go to a town that they're going to state everything is perfect. But I think all of us who attended, unfortunately, Mary Miskovich is not here this evening, and Linda Holt isn't. They were both at, I think, Acton, and I know at Lunenburg. So I was very impressed, and I just thought it was a great, and I would love to be able to see everybody on this committee at least visit one of the senior centers we go see, just to have, you know, some of you may have been to many senior centers and you know all about them. I have not. So for me, it was, I won't say it was eye-opening, but it was certainly refreshing to see so many people enjoying themselves, people having great positive comments about the center. They weren't griping, they were praising everything. Maybe they were, you know, paid off ahead of our visit. I don't know that, but but they had all good positive things to say, and I just thought that was great. It was extremely upbeat and uplifting when we left these visits. At least my impression was that way. You enjoyed, so Mary Ann, you certainly enjoyed the Millis visit.
I did, and I also did Acton.
And you did Acton, okay.
And Acton is unique in that, you know, they are the only one around that is a leased space. And they're very pleased with the leased space.
Okay,
Which-
good,
Mhm.
good. No, that's excellent. That's excellent. So, okay, so we're gonna open it up to everybody in the committee. I'm just trying to repeat myself a bit.
Jerry?
Yes, go ahead.
Given that the visits are scheduled, for example, was a Stowe visit on May 7th, I would urge us, and maybe, you know, Mary Ann could be the coordinator, that if enough people, basically, you know, more than the 5 show up, it's fairly simple to post a meeting.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, you're right. If we know enough in advance, you're correct. You're correct. Yep.
Is that,
Of
yes?
course.
Is that true?
48 hours ahead.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Posted.
yeah, business.
Okay.
Jerry, I have one question. This is Amy. Have you been up to the current senior center?
Once I was there with the school superintendent and Mary
That's
Branley.
right.
when we
Excellent, good.
presented about getting a new
Exactly.
school.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, I work both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Good. Okay, I wanted to make sure that you'd been up there. Perfect.
So I worked the seniors and I worked the pre-K to 3rd grade. So I got both ends of the life spectrum and committees that I happen to be on. Yes, I was there once. That was it. It's, I don't know. It's unfortunately very small, as we all know. And you know, one room in Millis was larger than our entire center, which is too bad. But we'll get there. we'll get there. That's all. I think we're learning a lot from the other centers. The other thing that I think that we're learning, and we need to pay, at least I think, strong attention to how the centers became what they are. How did they get them? How did they, whether it was they built a new building, how did they acquire funding? If they did a lease, how did they go after the town to get that lease approved? Okay, to get the funding for that. What is the staffing level? How many people do they serve on a daily, weekly, annual basis? How many different programs do they have? And I think that when it's time for us to go to the town, we need to go with all of the positive things that we can to go to the town when we're asking for money, whether it's money for a lease or it's money for new construction. All the positive things, not the woe is me, our place is too small. But look, with this kind of space, we could do the following programs. We get involved X number of seniors, young seniors, old seniors, whichever the case might be. And that was reinforced in conversations at least at the two centers that I visited. And I'm going to be guessing it was probably talked about in the Acton visit also. So I think we have to stay positive, and we have to ask a lot of questions of the staff at each center regarding how they got there. How did you do this? Because we're in the throes right now of figuring out how we're going to do it. So if there's any hints, positive and negative, if they learn something that they tried that didn't work, we want to know what that is too. Because we don't want to go down that same rat hole and end up, failing in our approach of how we acquire funds. So I think I've talked enough. Any other questions, comments on the site visits, senior site visits? I don't see any hands up. Perfect. The next one, real estate review. I'm going to turn that over to Jack for a little bit and see where we can go with this one.
There haven't been any official meetings, but there has been communication among the working group. Josh can't be here tonight, but Josh put together and circulated, I think it only went to the real estate group, a very comprehensive matrix on how to evaluate, it'd be a basis for a matrix to kind of come up with a point ranking across the sites which we identified. And he literally, excuse me, I suspect it's a form he used in Newton, but it was his effort to list every single publicly available piece of land in the town. And he went through with the, identified it, how big that particular site was, what it was, its distance to the nominal center of the town. So the rest of it was just his suggestion on a point matrix of factors to weigh as these sites were evaluated. I have made, but haven't circulated using the same form, a version for the short-term stuff, which is basically one of the documents that we already have in our document file, which was the list of sites considered by the Senior Center Focus Group, that if we come to a point where we need to do this evaluation and rank the things, it will provide a basis for, or form at least, to rank these sorts of things. So Josh has been contributing that. Sort of my comments are going to be focused on the short-term stuff. We have been informally in contact with the Maynard Crossing folks. They have identified a site. It's only 4,100 square feet. And their way of going about it, they're obviously interested in coming back in terms of, okay, how much money do you have and when you're going to have it? which is something I'll come back to in a second. But, and I need someone with more expertise in, how real estate and leasing works, but the brief thing we got back basically said $25 a square foot. The town would be responsible for all fit out, whether we did it with our own contractor or use the Maynard Crossing contractors. And then an additional $7 a square foot for the triple net, other kinds of things. So I'm over my head, but it's what it looks like, about $32 a square foot, which sounds high. But one of the other things that we need to begin to understand is what is a competitive square foot rate for the kinds of things we're looking at. Second point is I did talk to Bill Nemser about what's going on at the Royal Beijing School, which was one of the other potential sites. And that's a bit up in the air because at the moment, the town is fairly deeply into discussions with the Beijing school people about using that site as a potential avenue to address the MBTA housing zoning kinds of requirements. And while there's nothing concrete, the apparent direction, subject to probably a lot of change, is they will tear down the existing building and propose multifamily housing, which runs into our water restrictions. And so all of that is very visible in terms of conversations with the planning department and the Office of Municipal Services. But it basically says that the Beijing school is probably not a likely short-term kind of thing going forward. Third one, as far as we have been able to determine, again, through informal conversations, the building 6 or building 8, that runs the Mill and Main properties, spaces are still available. But the current information we have for pricing on those is a minimum. Building 6, I think, is now 18 months old. So we need a process to both confirm that that space is available and what current pricing might be offered, or current arrangements maybe rather than pricing. And at our last meeting, when I kind of ran through a list of short-term things, I also mentioned the State Police Crime Lab, which Chris has mentioned, but Chris commented at that meeting, they're there until November of 2026. So that's, well beyond what we're trying to get to in a short-term thing. So the effort continues on the short-term things, but something that we need, or I feel that the Senior Center Committee, needs to ask of the Council on Aging. There was building 6 concerns relative to parking, relative to the slope of the hill, so forth and so on. So I have a request for the COA board that says, is the COA board supportive of that location? And if there are issues, can we get the COA board to define what the issues are so that there's an opportunity to address them? I'm segueing a little bit here, but and now I'm sort of going back to finance a little bit. In the conversations that we had at our last meeting, when Josh Morse was going through some of the options that he was thinking about, we narrowed it down to 3. The conversation included the fact that for a feasibility study, there are potential opportunities for grants. What we haven't done and need to do is come to agreement on what a feasibility study piece of paper might include, so that we can, in fact, have a document that we can apply for grants, or at least submit in terms of grants. And the second part of that, which was also Josh's draft that was shared, I think maybe 2 meetings ago, was a request for information process, not a request for proposal, but a request for information, and this is extremely urgent in terms of the short-term kinds of needs, so that we can identify places and under procurement circumstances, which means the town would probably have to post it. But it is a request for information that we need to come to agreement as a working committee, as a full committee, I guess, in terms of what does that include? I have been in my casual conversations basically saying 5,000 to 7,000 square feet over 5 to 7 years for a 5 to 7 year lease. But again, that's been a conversation that we've had. We haven't come to a conclusion and agreed as a committee. So Josh not being here, I don't know whether there's been further conversations with Greg Johnson to, actually move forward with something like that. But I do know from email traffic that relative to the feasibility study, there have been conversations between Josh and Greg has reached out to the people, I think, that did the feasibility study for the school and confirmed Josh's estimate that a feasibility study would be 150,000. So that there is a written response to a town request that says, yep, you're in the right ballpark. And the email I saw included in that 150,000, the evaluation of the current site and potential new building and a third one, which I don't remember. So that's a little bit of a finance and real estate kind of thing, but I think we have some action items that we need to close on and agree in order to move forward.
So, Jack, let me add just one thing to that, and then we'll certainly open this up to any questions and comments. But one is, and this goes to the COA, to Amy and to the board. So what I don't know, and Jack alluded to this, is he's always stated, 5,000 to 7,000 square feet. Well, we think that's right, but we don't know that's right. And I can't tell you the square footage of the two sites that I went to see. I can describe them, but I can't tell you what the full square footage is. We can get that number. But what we don't know at this moment, and when we do an RFI looking for space, we have to sort of know, is the 5,000 to 7,000 square foot the right number? And the only way that I think we can figure that out is through the COA, figuring out what kinds of programs need to be run, and what are the space requirements for those types of programs, to kind of calculate what the expected or anticipated space might have to be. So I'm just throwing that out. Because again, to Jack's point, we think 5 to 7, but we're not, 7 might be asking for too much. 5 might not be enough. I don't know. Amy, any comment on that, please?
So the 5 to 7, I've given a lot of my initial materials when I was in contact with Mill and Main regarding Building 8. I had sent a proposal to Mill and Main, and I turned a lot of that information over to the focus group.
Oh,
So I
okay.
think the concept of the 5 to 7, that all that went to the focus group. And so I had sent a draft to Mill and Main, and that's where they sort of proposed the space in Building 8, which is larger than 5 to 7,000 square feet. So I don't know if that's posted on the documents, the resources, because I turned that over to the focus group. So I'd have to look and see what was posted again. As far as that's a tough one. I mean, my initial draft was looking at just structurally, probably what you're looking at when you're evaluating senior center spaces, what you're seeing and anticipating. So I can pull up that information again that I had, but I think the focus group also has that information.
Would you pull it up? And it may be online. I don't.
Yeah.
I've looked at it, but I don't remember that I saw it there. I do not recall.
Jerry, as an FYI,
Yep.
Millis is 6,000 square feet.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is. Ah,
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect. Okay, thank you.
I think that's a part of the vision. So I think, I think one thing, I think the senior center tour group, the working group, I mean, I think incorporating into, you're looking at these space, I think you do need to look at the space in building 6 and the space in building 8, incorporate that into what you're visioning.
Yep.
So however you can do that, it's just, with Mill and Main, contact them, say, can we tour these two spaces, the working group, the senior centers, and start comparing what you're seeing. So you're looking at Millis, and you like Millis, and you're also got what's available in Mill and Main in your heads too. And the space in building 8 is a little different. It's not as cut apart the same as the space in building 6. But I think you need to get that vision, to get those things in your head so you can look at Millis and say, the space in building 8 could, suffice to do the same sort of things that are going on at Millis.
Okay,
Jerry.
okay, no, good point. Go ahead.
Per the records that we collected, the 6 Mill and Main site apparently was 5,160 square feet. The 8 Mill and Main site that was looked at a little bit farther back than the 6 Mill and Main site was apparently a 6,000 upgradable to 9,000 something in years.
No, I should explain that. Sorry to cut you off, Dan, but I should explain that. So the space in building 8, which is right across from the post office, there's a circular drive. The space in building 8 technically is 9,800 square feet. When we toured that space, we did a couple times. It was the previous COA board composition. It's not the current COA board. When we looked at that space, it looks different. It was 9,800 square feet. The interior of that space is sort of open, and the rooms are around the perimeter of the space. And when I said to Mill and Main, there's the amenities, everything about it's great, the location, I said, the interior of this space is kind of empty. I'm not sure, how we'd use this. And I said to them, I was looking at something, 5,500 to 6,500 square feet. And that's when the proposal came back within just one email, where they redid the proposal and said yes. And the first 36 months, they were going to lease it as 6,000 square feet, even though the space is 9,800 square feet. And that was the moment when we had to stop talking about it. That's not to say the interior of the space is unusable. I was just sort of playing with them, so to speak, to see, and we couldn't negotiate any further. Who knows? They might put the lease in for 6,000 square feet for the whole 98, for 5 or 7 years or 10 years. So that's where that weird split came. That was just a conversation. And that's why they tweaked the proposal. And we didn't go any further.
For this conversation, though, it sounds like the 5,000 to 7,000 square foot that we're kind of using as a first guess is in the ballpark based on what we've looked at most recently.
Right, exactly. I think the space in building 6 is a nice space. That's a nice nifty space. And so that's 5,100 square feet, that's a nice space.
I have a question as well.
Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, Amy, was building 8 the building that you brought us in that had columns all the way down the middle?
Yeah.
And then offices on the side?
Yeah, so that's exactly the space. I think that's probably on your documents, and on one of the last pages of their proposal, they do the little draft. So the space itself has the original beams down the center, and all the
Right.
rooms are around the outer. And there's
Well, I
the
remember
kitchen.
you saying that it wasn't possible for you to do anything with that room unless you had separate offices for certain things when we were there.
No.
Yes,
You were where?
when we were there, when you brought us in there to show us the room, you said you looked at it and you couldn't figure out how you would make it into a center. other than to break up the offices?
Oh, so the offices, you know, you can, they're offices, but you can take a wall out to make a larger office, which in essence becomes a larger room. That all can be reconfigured when they do construction on that. And so there's a number of different things that they can do within that space. Adding a handicap bathroom, there's the kitchen area in there. And the center of the space is open, so it's just a lot could be done with it. You would have wonderful chairs and tables and places to sit and have coffee and, you know, you would actually have to see it. It's up to the group, but I was trying to.
I was like.
Well, clearly, coming back to my point, we seem to be, 5 to 7,000. To Jerry's point of how many additional programs would that be? What would the additional costs be to manage that and so forth, so that we need to come to a conclusion for the short-term solution, a document which says, this is what we're looking for, with as much detail as we can provide.
Exactly, Jack, because it isn't, to your point, it isn't just the cost of the space, the cost of the retrofit of the space, but also having more space, which is a great thing. Now, what do we have? Staff. How is that going to increase staffing requirements? And are we going to use a lot of volunteers for a lot of the programs, like a lot of the other towns do? I don't know. I don't know.
Leads to another question that I hope the visit group is asking. Each time they visit, are they asking for information about what is the staffing, how is it done, what is the number of programs, so you have some piece of data on staff to program ratios. I'm not sure that's valid, but staffing information I think is going to be fairly valuable on the visits.
So, Mary Ann, I don't know if you can answer that, but I know we saw staffing because I know, I didn't look at all of Millis documentation, but I know Lunenburg had documentation regarding staffing and volunteers. I'm looking to see if I have that piece of paper right now. I probably don't.
So we do have staffing information. Since these are all public entities, it's all public information. You
Cool.
just drill into the town website, you can get all the staffing information as part of the budget listing every year. So we're pulling that information on each town and compiling all of that together. I think the smallest staff we've seen so far is 4 full-time head count in
The smallest.
the smallest. Yes.
Yeah.
And are we capturing the number of participants that staff supports? At least
We haven't acted. I have an email out to the director of Millis. We actually weren't able to meet with the director when we were there on Tuesday. We met with their outreach coordinator. So I have an email to her asking specific questions. Luckily, every senior center we've gone into has a My Senior Center computer set up that people check into, and it tracks participants and how many people overall use the system, use the facility. And I know Acton is 200 a day on average, which, we really can't compare to because the population is so much greater, but we will have that information included for each town that we go to.
good, super.
Yep. Yep, that's excellent.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
I mentioned earlier that Josh had put together, a matrix that we could use, but one thing that he did that I just wanted to share with the group that I kind of thought was a nice touch. And Josh admitted when he labeled this matrix Maycal. And he explained what it was, and it might be premature, but the Maynard Center for Active Living, which I thought was kind of a nice touch. I'm not proposing we do anything with it, but I thought that was a nice way of beginning to address other needs, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to share that, because Josh is not here.
So to your point, Jack, the word, for active living, sort of denotes something other than just, how do I say it? Old people looking for a place to go. It's active living. How do whether it's active living in your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, 80s, whatever. And I think he's 100% right. We need to be able to, make statements like that if we're going to try to convince the residents of Maynard that they ought to be approving some amount of money in the future. I think you're 100% right. I think Josh was correct in doing that. I like it.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that is going on, and I have to readily admit I do not know too much about it, and it's the aging assessment that is in progress right now by UMass. I did fill out my survey, I think the second day that the survey was available. I don't remember what the questions were. I don't remember how I answered them, but I did do it. I don't know how well that is going. Amy,
Would you
I
like
don't
an
know.
update? Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
give
I
you.
was just gonna,
Sure.
you, I assume, know more about it than the rest of us, right?
Yeah, so
Yes.
I've
Perfect.
yeah, so I spoke to Mary Krebs from UMass last week. So at this point in time, online and paper surveys have been completed. It's been closed in terms of submitting any more information. So the key informant interviews are done, the focus groups are done, the survey's been completed, and now things go quiet as they begin to analyze the data. So I won't, have to be in direct contact with them for a period of time. Of course, if they have any questions about what they're processing, they'll be checking in. So this point into probably August, that's what they're going to be doing is assembling the report, going through all the data. And the goal is to be back in contact with them in August about setting up, looking at the draft and the formal presentation to the general public. The report will be done for October. So now it's just data analysis. And they were pleased with the key informant interviews. They were especially pleased with the focus groups. They thought that they had just a wonderfully dynamic, engaged participants in those focus groups. So they were pleased with the outcomes.
May I ask a question, Amy? Who were in
Yeah.
the focus groups? Who were in the focus groups?
It was varied individuals. So I don't have the list here. It was varied individuals. I took guidance from UMass. I asked members of my COA board to provide names of members of the community. UMass was specific about they wanted a focus group that would be on the sort of younger seniors that potentially hadn't attended any activity at the Council on Aging. And then they had a focus group that they want comprised of people that were, I think, sort of more prominent community members. They wanted someone from realtor, banker, in banking. They had categories for that. And then they had a third focus group that were just seniors at large. And so I just assembled some individuals. And also I got support from the Council on Aging board, 2 members of the board providing some names. So
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Jerry, I'll make a comment.
Go ahead, Jack.
I was a member of one of the focus groups, and I want to share something. Within the group that I was a part of, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us, whatever it was, there was a handicapped individual. Dan Resnick, who I had run across before and so forth. And what I walked away from as kind of being in that conversation, we are not cognizant enough of the needs of handicapped individuals as we go through this process. Dan he's been in town 8 years, loves it here. But made some observations about the consciousness of the town. And clearly, as we go through this process, we need to maintain a high level of awareness of ADA and what it really means to be handicapped on a daily basis in terms of site visits and things you can do there, programming and so forth. I really became conscious of it as his presence there. And I spoke to him afterwards and I asked him to be as visible as he can be, throughout these things across town.
Jack, that's a very interesting comment and perspective. And to that, I will have to say what I was impressed with in both Lunenburg and Millis was handicap access to all of the rooms, all of the functions that the people have to do. Mary Ann, you could chime in if you choose to, but basically, in Lunenburg, for example, you had a good front entrance, handicap accessible. They had the handicap, push button access, whether you were coming in the front of the building or you were out to activities in their beautiful back lawn area. They also had the push button access. Just hit it like you do, and in you go. It's very easy for somebody in a wheelchair or crutches or a cane or walker to get around. And I observed similar ease of access and movement around in Millis also. The only negative in Millis, it had out in the corridor, it was like walking through the existing Green Meadow School. You've got the skateboard ramp, which doesn't quite meet ADA requirements. But outside of having a ramp in the Millis one, in the hall, going up to a couple of rooms, the rest of it was very, very accessible, either via, again, wheelchair, crutches, cane, walker, had good ramp system coming into the building. So I think and their parking was good. So I think they've certainly thought through the process quite well. And you're 100% right. That is a very strong thing we need to be considering. Absolutely. Any other comments on that? Anybody? Wow, what a quiet group tonight. Quiet group. What was I going to say? Next. Is there any new business that we need to attend to? Go ahead, Dan.
I will be going away for a while, in a good way.
Oh, I was going to say, I was going to question that.
If we decide to have a meeting 2 weeks from today, I'll be here. But I would miss the first meeting in June. I could conceivably attend the second meeting in June if we have one, but then I'm basically out for July and August. Out in such a way that I can't be counted on even to do the minutes by looking at the recording like I had to do for the previous meeting. So I think it's time. We do need an alternate clerk who I could train in advance on the steps. It's not a whole lot, but there are things that really do have to be done, and they have to be done in a certain way in order for the committee to function. I would love to have someone jump up and say, pick me. Now's your chance. Training will be free of charge. At your convenience.
I don't see anybody jumping up, not that I can see anyway.
Some committees kind of take time off in the summer. Having talked to Jerry a little bit about this, I don't think our committee is a candidate for doing that because we've got some deliverables that we really need to try to pound into place to try to get on the fall meeting. So, granted, the working groups are the engine of this committee, and they can continue to function without the whole committee having meetings, and they can send out email notifications to keep everybody informed, but I would think at least once a month we'd have to have meetings, and I won't be here to do the clerk work, and if that work doesn't get done, there's no meeting. So we really need somebody to volunteer for this, and I'll be happy to work with you on your own schedule.
So the one thing we could do, we could make this almost like being in the service. And you know how that works. Let's see, we have three voting members who are not in attendance this evening. Certainly. Amongst
We
us.
did that to
vote-
you one week, didn't we?
Yes, I recall that. And that's really why I kind of want to do that. And I spent time in the service too. So, yeah, so we could certainly assign, I'm only kidding. Well, somewhat. Is there anybody who would do it? It isn't, again, Dan, I'm not going to belittle what you do. You do a great job at it. But so maybe when Dan's absent, the minutes aren't as detailed as what Dan does. But we just need to capture, the general theme of what went on. Not who said what and who answered back to that, but just a general theme. And that's it. Do I see any hands? Maybe my screen is dirty and I'm not noticing hands going up.
It might be Amy's hand that's up.
Oh,
You know what, actually-
She likes to do
No.
minutes.
I actually have to do the minutes for my own council on aging board because I can't get anyone to step up to do the minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Change your experience.
yeah, that's absolutely
Hmm.
true. I can't get my own board members to step up and do the minutes, so I'm going to decline if I wasn't
Right.
doing that.
But the good thing, Amy, is you have experience doing it. See, so you would be an extremely experienced clerk. Still not interested, huh? Okay.
Well, it is, yeah, it's, if we're meeting twice a month, right? That's a lot of work.
Jesus.
We are right now.
Yeah.
How about if we met once a month, Amy?
Why are you pushing me around on this, you guys? It sounds like you talked about this before.
No, we did not. We should have, but we didn't.
I know, we didn't.
No, that's all right. We get time. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We will.
All right, I'll be calling each person individually then and asking you, so you don't have to say yes in front of everybody.
Do you have the meeting recorded?
Right,
It's
Yes.
really not about the minutes. It's about working with Jerry in advance at a certain point in time. Not urgent, but it needs to be done at a certain point in time to establish the agenda document. You've seen the agenda documents. They're about the same now. But you have to create one. You have to take the step of talking to the town of Maynard to get the Zoom link, which is different every single time. You just have to send a message, get the Zoom link, paste it into the Word document. It really isn't hard, but it has to be done, or else there is no legal meeting.
Mhm.
It doesn't take a ton of time, but it needs to be done. The minutes can be much shorter than what I do. I tend to do epistles because, well, I can. And because early on, at least, I wanted to have more visible, but it doesn't have to be that way. The minutes of some of the other committees basically are, the meeting started, we voted on these three things, the meeting stopped, and we're done. And that's about all,
Yeah.
they're one pagers. I mean, there's no real literary requirement for the content, but we do need a volunteer or the committee comes to a stuttering halt.
We'll figure it out.
So
And
I'll start
yeah.
calling around and maybe I could talk and one of you through whatever the concerns you have and then we can move forward.
Okay, so you do that. Everybody think a little bit about it. It's not yeoman's work to get it done, as Dan just said. there is one other thing we do need to talk about on new business, and that is that one of the voting members representing the Friends of Maine as Seniors, Liz Drury, has needed to resign from the committee, and we need to replace her. We need to figure that out. I don't know if anybody else, I mean, I don't personally know Liz. I don't know that many members of the Friends of Maine as Seniors, organization. So I don't know who could or would take her position, but I would like to get us back to 11 voting members, because right now we're at 10 voting members, which then tends to impact our quorum. So now we have to watch out for 5. Before we could go and you had a quorum when you hit 6 people. Now we have a quorum when we hit 5 people. It's half the people. So, and we need to get this sent to the select board and approved by the select board. And Liz's term was going through, I made a note, 2026 is when her term was going to expire. So if somebody came in, they would be filling that slot. I'll leave it open to you folks. If any of you have already talked about this and I am unaware, that's fine. Or we can certainly take this offline and figure out who can fill in that slot.
Well, the Friends is a formal organization. Can we just ask the Friends to,
Yep.
make a formal request to the Friends that nominate someone, or nominate or ask for a volunteer? Mary Ann's hand is up.
Yeah, Mary Ann, I think is going to answer that. Yes.
I have already asked for a formal volunteer and have not gotten a response back. What I had talked to Jerry briefly about, and I've talked to Deb about it today. Deb is on here right now as a member of the focus group, but she is also on the Friends board. So I didn't know if Deb could effectively take the second Friends spot on the Senior Center Committee and look to another focus group participant to fill in the open spot.
Mhm.
Well, that potentially opens up electing or finding an at-large member. If that
Mhm.
works.
Yeah, yep, could do that.
I think technically we're all at large except for the Council on Aging representatives who are officially already sworn in town committee members who are appearing in that behalf. Everyone else is technically an at-large member in my understanding.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So I don't see it's a big deal.
all right, so let's hold off, a week or so, and Mary Ann, maybe you will get an answer back, and between, I don't know, maybe you and Deb, I don't know, Deb, you could, I don't know. I don't know.
I cannot split myself in 2, Jerry, sorry.
Oh, come on, come on, come on. Well, we could, what you could do to entice the offer a little bit would be say, oh, and whoever joins could also be a temporary clerk. That would really help the situation. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, let's sit on that for a week and let's behind the scenes see what we can do to get it filled, and to Jack's point, could be an at-large position opening up. But let's give it a week and see where we get. Is there any other new business anybody would like to bring up, or anything that I've missed? And
No, I
Chris,
think
yes,
sorry.
no,
I
was
think
gonna
I
say,
would like to follow up with what Dan said about meetings through the summer.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we keep going, just because
Yes.
of the fact that we have town meeting coming up and.
One of them is the 4th of July too, so we kind of need to figure out how we want to work around that.
Oh, okay.
Our first meeting in July is scheduled for the 4th. So how do we want to work around that?
well, let's take a look at the calendar. July.
My 2 cents is we really do need to meet with some urgency, so monthly meetings are enough.
Maybe 2 weeks in a row?
Or we do July 11th and 25th. Are we talking about July right now or
Yeah.
something different?
Have we
And
settled
then-
on May? Are we gonna need to meet on May 16th, or do we skip into June for our next meeting?
I've got written down, we want to do the 16th, but you
Yeah.
know, it's a matter of having a meeting for the sake of having a meeting isn't necessarily productive. Having a meeting because we actually have some good information to pass on and some decisions to be made. Okay, that's worth everybody's time.
Well,
Yeah.
you're having people still go visit buildings, our
Yes.
community centers, and I think
Yep.
it's important to hear that. And add the other information that you've asked of Mary Ann and the other
Mhm.
people. I think that's really important, and also maybe to get some of those directors to come here and speak.
Ah,
And we can kind of ask them questions that would be interesting for the group as a whole to learn some new ideas about how they went about getting their senior centers and the funding for them.
I like that.
Yeah, so I think it's not just having a meeting for a meeting. I think we have
Right.
enough stuff that if the finance committee gets together and we get some more information from them, also the people that are touring buildings, get
Mhm.
information from them. And probably try to get some of the directors to come in and talk with us. Like, the focus group had Allison, from Stowe come in and talk to us last year. And she had a lot of good ideas and told us all the steps that it took her to get her senior center. And, that opened up a lot of eyes. So I think that might be something that we could try to put on our agenda in the future.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I hadn't thought in that direction. I kept thinking we had to go to them, but you know, there could be a chance we could get one or two possibly to come visit us. That'd be great. It'd be a great idea.
The very fact of having a deadline of a meeting is an important thing in this process.
Yes,
And the 16th is important because Dan will be here.
yes, yes.
Why am I
And-
important?
As Jack sits there with a smile on his face. Yes, very good, Jack.
No, I'm just describing, can we put any meaningful content together in time for the 16th? If yes, then sure, we should meet, but if not, maybe we should really aim at having a powerhouse meeting on the 6th.
I think I think we can do the 16th because we at least have one, if not two, tours coming up next Tuesday. Stowe and I forget what you said the second one was going to be.
Wayland potentially.
Wayland, yeah. So let's assume for a moment we could visit two. I don't know if there'll be another one, could be scheduled sometime before the 16th. I don't know, yes or no, but that could be a couple anyway that could be talked about. I will talk to Jack and we may be able to get something set up to get over to Millwood, Maine. Maybe we can get to take a look at one or both of those spaces. If we can find out, from the Millwood, Maine folks, if we can get in there, is everything still available as previously defined? I don't know. But I would like to be able to hope we could maybe get in there in the next 2 weeks and give even a cursory update on that.
Well,
Finance is important too.
the other thing we should push for, as I mentioned earlier, that really can't sit around for another month is what is our definition? Do we want to
Yeah.
push for an RFI? Do we need to put some pen to paper and get it approved by the group in terms of what the feasibility study would look like? I mean, there's some
Yeah,
action.
we do have some action items, so I can start that we can push the RFI. And we can also start to talk a little more detail about the feasibility study. I'm just writing a note about that now. But definitely getting an RFI out, definitely. Yeah, we get that. So we've got enough for the 16th. Now the next question comes up is, do we then meet? Because May is a long month, the way it's broken up. We meet the 16th, do we meet on the 30th? Or do we go to the 6th of June?
It's 2 in a row.
Uh,
The,
The 30th.
the original.
Oh, yeah.
In our original meeting, we specified first and third of every month.
Correct.
We could choose to meet again if there was a compelling reason, but conceptually, we aimed at first and third Thursdays.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And people have scheduled their other commitments and what have you around that schedule. I agree 100%. But in dealing with some urgency to Jack's point, to getting some things done and done more quickly, do we do this? And I'm not saying we do this. We definitely do the 16th, May 16th, next meeting, that we're going to schedule. Next
Okay.
question is, do we do the 30th of May and then the 13th of June, or do we just move into from the 16th of May and then go to the 6th of June, which brings us back to our original schedule of the first and third Thursdays of the month, which I think would be fine. I think we can do the 16th, do the 6th of June, the 20th of June, and if we uncover some information, in my estimation anyway, that causes us to think, wow, we've really got a lot, we got to get together on this, then we can call for another meeting in between them. We have to. That sound okay?
I would, yes, I would stay with the
Right.
first and third, pretty much as
Yep.
you, Tuesdays, until we find that we need to, do something in either direction, either stretch it out or shorten it. So
Yep, okay,
people need to plan.
right, that's it, yep, no, I agree, I mean, why Dan has planned his trip for half the summer, I don't know. Actually, I think he's in the witness protection program, but I don't want to talk about that. So anyway, so the next meeting is the 16th. Is there any other business? And Chris, I'm going to ask you for a minute, Chris De Silva, if you could just unmute for a second, say hello. And do things appear to be from your high perch on the select board appear to be going in the right direction here? You're still on mute, buddy.
I think he's talking to somebody else.
Oh, he could be. Yeah, so
Well,
he's not listening.
while he's doing that, I have a
Yes.
question for Amy. Amy, in the aging assessment thing, in any of your conversations with Mary Krebs, who is the person running it for the UMass people, has she made any observations in the sense of impressions, whatever you want to call it?
Impressions, how so, Jack? Be more specific.
Okay, specific example. I said I was in the focus group. During the discussion, she made an observation that they've done 70 of these, but she basically said Maynard was kind of standing out because it was the first one she'd run across where they really want a community or a senior center. So just has
But
she
they
made,
really,
has
so
she
what
made
was
any
that?
observations to you about how the process is working? Observations about differences, similarities?
Say that again. So you, Jackie, you said that she said to you in the focus group that Maynard was the first community. I didn't catch that last part, what you said. The first community that what?
In her phrasing of it, the first one she'd run across that really wanted a senior center.
Mhm.
But my question to you is, in any of the dialogue with her,
Yep.
has she made any observations about the interactions something about unique or the same or whatever.
So she said to me, Jack, she said to me that because I didn't attend the focus groups. I felt that people really needed to be free from the presence of a COA director and or a town official. But the theme it was overwhelmingly from all three focus groups. Everyone was concerned about the space. That was dominated by, the discussions were dominated when it came to concerns regarding seniors and seniors' needs. It was uniformly, people were just very concerned about the space we had and the lack of space we had and the accessibility and the whole situation over there. And no matter if it was seniors in the group that were young seniors and had never attended a program, it's throughout the whole community in terms of that it's unacceptable and people have concerns. And then she just said that dominated. So that she did tell me last week that it was on everyone's topic of everyone's sharing of whatever thoughts and feelings they had about anything in Maynard. They were just extremely concerned about the space.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, it was pretty profound, my conversation with her, and yeah.
Okay,
Good feedback. And not surprising, but certainly good feedback.
Yeah,
So-
I was surprised. I was surprised because, yeah, the focus groups, I don't know who actually ended up participating. We sent her lists of names. I don't know who was in those rooms, but I know that it was a wonderful cross-section of the community and the people on these lists, and that's what dominated as a big concern. I'm sure there's other things, but that was a big concern related to seniors and being a senior.
good, thank you.
Good information. Any other pertinent information that we need to address right now? Let me address Chris again one more day. Chris, are you available to, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Are we in the right track, do you think, when you look from your perch on high on the select board?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Everything seems to be like, I think what we would have what we would have expected in terms of the select board, where the direction that everything's going and, the information that, we've talked about in meetings where we've given updates. No one's, nothing's raised a red flag.
All right, good,
But yeah, we're on board.
good. All right.
I spoke to Lindsay McConkey, who's gonna, unless something happens between now and 4 days, is gonna be the newest member of the select board at our first meeting in July, and she knows what we're trying to accomplish and
Mhm.
what this committee's trying to accomplish. So she's on board with that whole, the whole idea as well. So yeah, no, everything seems to be making sense to me from
Alright.
from where I sit, and I don't think that I'm misaligned with any of the other 4 members. So I think that that's a good sign.
Good.
What
Good, yeah,
and Greg has his Greg has his things, but his things are more, what rules he has to follow and what things are in front of
Mhm.
him to follow as far as, regulations, procurement law, all these other things. And those are the kinds of conversations I have with him to make sure that we don't run afoul of those things as a group or community at some
Right.
point.
Okay, good. Yeah, I did want to just check in because we've not talked for a while now on this, and I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that you representing the board feel comfortable that we're not off on some tangent somewhere that you think is a wild goose chase completely and we're in the wrong direction. So,
No, I don't think that at all. It's,
Good. Good.
the thing is, it's just like every other thing in Maynard, it just comes down to where are we gonna find the funding?
Yep.
In
Oh, yeah.
funding, grants, all those other things.
yep, agreed. So right now, yeah, I mean, so let's assume there's a pot of gold sitting somewhere. We don't know where it is yet. We're gonna try to find it. But right now, I mean, if we can get to deliver back to the select board a direction, we need, example, we need 7,000 square feet. We need handicap access. We need, parking. We've found a facility. It's in downtown Maynard and it's gonna cost X number of dollars. That's what we want to be able to bring back to the select board. So the select board can then say, wow, yeah, that's the right direction. Let's, double team and get to the town meeting and see if we can acquire the funds, whether they be capital or they be expense to pay for a lease. I just want to make sure that we're
That's-
getting ready to deliver the right package to you folks.
I think that's the proper path. I think,
Okay.
that's what I think that's what we, I think that's I think that's the direction in the path that we were expecting it to follow, when we created this committee and when we were, when we heard what we heard at the, previous special town meeting last year, in last fall. So I think, yeah, I think we're on the same page.
All right, good. Perfect. Any other comments from anybody else on the?
Yeah, I have a
committee?
couple. We
Go
met,
ahead.
I did meet with, Steve Silverstein and Greg and a couple other people with the guy at, the State Police Crime Lab, and he's got till the end of 2026 which we know,
Mhm.
and I don't know if the building's gonna stay there or if they're gonna put a new building up or whatever, but he's certainly more, as we look kind of long term, he's more than willing to, do something to accommodate a senior center within whatever he builds or changes. So that's a good thing. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
when that all is gonna take place and how. Because one of the issues is that he was not invited, his company was not invited, that property was not invited to participate in, the RFP for that project, which is to create a new building for the State Police Crime Lab. One of the things that's happened in the interim is they've found out what the price tag is for the new State Police Crime Lab. And, for all of the things that are in the building on Acton Street, the state of Massachusetts is looking at upwards of, $20 million. And, so that whole process, he believes that whole process right now is, stopped or has been delayed because they started to get into the conversation, prior to any RFPs or anything officially going out, that, developers and builders and the state police IT and, other offices that have offices within there, I guess, biological stuff and all that. It's a lot of money, so I don't know, he doesn't know where that's going, and he'll keep us posted, but it's also a conversation that he's here. He's got some room in that building that he's not using. So it might be, even if that doesn't take place, we might still be able to impose upon that facility to find us a spot, but and you can't beat that parking lot. There's plenty of parking. It's
Yeah.
a parking lot. It's easy in, easy out.
Yeah.
So he's
Mhm.
interested,
Ladders.
but just waiting.
Last time was when it was DTA.
And maybe we could, just for another program, and Amy, you can certainly pay attention to this. Maybe we could get some of the seniors working in the bioterrorism lab or something in there, and give them, that would certainly be something we have in a Maynard Senior Center that I can assure you there will not be another senior center offering those kinds of programs. I think that's very unique. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that update. That was good. Thank you.
No problem.
Good information. Any other issues at the moment? I think we're about 8:19 right now. If there are no other open issues, I'm going to ask somebody if they might make a motion to adjourn. And
So
our
moved.
next, thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second,
Second, perfect. And our next meeting will be on the 16th. We will get an agenda out to everybody on that. Let me read down the list and vote. and- Excuse me, get everybody's approval for adjourning. Paul,
Paul,
Sorry,
you are,
yes.
I think it
Yes.
looks like yes. Deb,
yes,
Jack,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes,
I'm a yes. Dan,
Yes.
thank you. Amy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes, sir.
perfect. That's all the voting members. We are officially adjourned.